let's learn about CACFP meal service requirements. During this training, we will review what are the meal services and reimbursement, how to meet meal service time requirements, requirements and flexibilities during meal service styles, how and when to record meal counts. Centers and daycare homes shall serve one or more of the following meal types: breakfast, morning AM snack, lunch, afternoon PM snack, supper, and late night snack. Centers and daycare homes may only claim reimbursement for the meal type specified in the site or provider's approved application in My Idaho CNP with the state agency. The following are the reimbursement limits. Child care centers, Head Start programs, and outside school hour centers may not claim for reimbursement more than 2 meals and 1 snack, or 1 meal and 2 snacks provided daily to each participant. Emergency shelters may be approved to claim up to 3 reimbursable meals: breakfast, lunch, and supper, or 2 meals and 1 snack to each child each day on weekdays and weekends. Only meals served in congregate meal settings are eligible for reimbursement. Meals which are consumed in private family quarters in an emergency shelter are not reimbursable. At-risk after-school care centers may claim for reimbursement only 1 at-risk after-school snack and 1 at-risk after-school meal per child per day. If approved, at-risk centers can also claim 1 meal and 1 snack on school holidays and weekends. An at-risk after-school care center that provides care to a child under another component of CACFP, for example, child care, during the same day may not claim reimbursement for more than 2 meals and 1 snack or 1 meal and 2 snacks per child per day, including the at-risk after-school snack and the at-risk after-school meal. Exception for infant meals served in private family quarters within an emergency shelter. Meals provided for infants from birth through age 11 months, but served outside the congregate setting, may be claimed if the shelter provides all of the required components to the infant's parent or guardian and maintains records documenting that meals met the meal pattern requirements. What are the meal service requirements in Idaho? State agencies may require any institution or facility to allow a specific amount of time to elapse between meal services or require that meal services not exceed a specified duration. Meals that are claimed for reimbursement must be served at traditional meal times. SDE defines traditional meal times within the ranges indicated. Breakfast shall not begin after 9:30 a.m., lunch 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., supper 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The exception is in at-risk after-school programs. Supper must be served after the school day, which may occur before 4 p.m. Meal service duration may be up to 1 hour. When the meal service is longer than 1 hour, the institution must check the multiple shifts box by the meal service times in the site or provider application to indicate the meal service is served in shifts. Meals and snacks should be timed to allow hunger to develop between meal services. For all meals except breakfast, the start time must be at least 2 hours after the previous meal service start time when snacks are served. If a snack is not served between breakfast and lunch, there must be 3 hours between the start time of breakfast to the start time of lunch. If a snack is not served between lunch and supper, there must be at least 4 hours between the start time of lunch to the start time of supper. The last meal service must begin no later than 30 minutes before the facility closing. and no meal services may be served outside of the facility operating days and hours. For infant meal times and service, centers are not required to feed infants only at the traditional meal time scheduled for older children. For infants in care, an infant's meal service time is the start of the meal service time approved in the center or home's My Idaho CNP application to the start of the next meal service time, with one exception for the first approved meal served and the last approved meal served. For the first meal served, the start time may be when the facility opens. For the last meal served, the end time may be when the facility closes. Let's look at an example. Here is an example of a facility's hours of operation and approved meal times that meet the meal service time requirements listed above for children in care. The example also shows how infant meal times are determined based on the approved meal service times in a site or provider application in My Idaho CNP and the facility's hours of operation. Please note, in this example, the facility breakfast and lunch meal service time are more than 1 hour. So in the site or provider application, the institution checked the multiple shift box to indicate the meals are served in shifts. If a snack service time was more than 1 hour, the institution would also check the multiple shift box. Institutions must denote in the site or provider applications the meals or snacks the centers or providers serve in shifts. Institutions must provide each sponsored center or daycare home meal service times in the site or provider applications in My Idaho CNP. Institutions may only claim meals or snacks that are served within the approved meal service times provided to SDE in My Idaho CNP. If the center or daycare home wishes to revise their meal service times, it is important the institution updates the site or provider application in My Idaho CNP, and the updates are approved by SDE before the facility begins serving and claiming meals or snacks in the new meal service times. Note, the meal times approved in the site and provider application are for children 1 and older or adult participants in adult daycare. It is important each organization has a system for centers and daycare home providers to claim the infant meal if it is served after the meal service, but before the next meal service, as provided in the example for infant meal service times. Serving meals or snacks in shifts. Centers and daycare homes may serve meals or snacks in shifts to meet the needs of participants. The SDE understands participants do not always arrive and depart at the same time in facilities. To ensure a participant has the opportunity to receive a meal within traditional meal service times, centers or daycare homes can serve meals or snacks in shifts. A facility is serving in shifts when a meal or snack service is longer than 1 hour to accommodate arrival and departure times or the number of participants, and there are short time frames during the meal service when no participants are being served. Mealtime waivers. Institutions may request other meal times if they are necessary to meet participant needs. Written requests with justifications must be approved by SDE before meals are served at non-traditional times and claimed for reimbursement. Justifications must include certification that the meal times requested would not result in participants' ability to receive the same meal service in more than one child nutrition program. For example, if the center is requesting lunch meal service prior to 11 a.m. to serve p.m. kindergarten children, the center must certify that the children do not have access to lunch meal service at school or other child nutrition program. Water availability. Safe drinking water must be made available to children throughout the day, including at mealtimes. While water must be made available to children during mealtimes, it is not part of a reimbursable meal and cannot be served in lieu of fluid milk. Water can be made available to children in a variety of ways, including having cups available next to the kitchen sink faucet, having water pitchers and cups set out, or simply providing water to a child when it's requested. In recognition that the majority of the CACFP participants are very young children and may not be able to or know how to request it themselves, water must be offered to children throughout the day as well. Offering water means asking the children whether they would like water at different times throughout the day. For very young children, this may require visual cues, such as showing a cup or pitcher while verbally offering water. Meals consumed off-site. SAC or picnic meals provided and supervised by the institution or sponsored facility but served off-site may be claimed for reimbursement. To be claimed for reimbursement, meals must meet CACFP meal pattern requirements. The SAC or picnic meals must have all food components of the meal served to each participant all at the same time. Caution must be taken to ensure that potentially hazardous foods are transported, stored, and served according to local public health policies. Meals packed by the institution and sent with a participant to eat at another location without the supervision of the institution's personnel are not eligible for CACFP reimbursement. The goal of CACFP is to serve nutritious meals prepared on site, but commercially prepared foods are allowable in CACFP with proper documentation. Food purchased from a fast food establishment would fall into this category. Institutions will need to ensure that items, if purchased at a fast food establishment, are made from creditable ingredients and that the quantities served are credited properly. This can be done by having the restaurant complete a product formulation statement that the institution then verifies to make sure it is accurate. Note, food from fast food restaurants is usually not nutritionally sound. These items tend to be higher in fat, calories, and sodium, so menu planners should take this into account. SDE encourages the best practice of preparing food in the home or center that meets not only CACFP standards, but also current dietary guidelines. Food provided by parents or guardians. Generally, food provided by parents or guardians may not be counted as fulfilling meal pattern component requirements in the CACFP. If parents provide additional food, such as a dessert item, and the institution provides the required components for the meal or snack, the snack may be claimed for reimbursement. Such foods should be served after the required components to help ensure that the foods in the CACFP meal pattern are eaten first and that the children's nutritional needs are met before additional foods are offered. Parents or guardians cannot be required or coerced to provide any food for their child who is participating in the CACFP. Centers and daycare home providers are required to make reasonable modifications at no extra charge to accommodate participants with disabilities. This includes providing substitutions to meals and the meal service for participants with a disability that restricts the participant's diet on a case-by-case basis and only when supported by a written medical statement signed by a medical authority. In some cases, institutions and facilities may be faced with a very expensive request and should first consider engaging in further dialogue with the participant and the participant's parent or guardian. Facilities are not required to produce the exact substitution or other modifications requested. However, they must work with the parent, guardian, participating adult, or a person acting on behalf of an adult participant to offer a reasonable modification that effectively accommodates the participant's disability and provides equal opportunity to participate in or benefit from the CACFP. For meal modifications due to a disability, a parent, guardian, adult participant, or person on behalf of an adult participant may supply, at their discretion, one or more components of the reimbursable meal, as long as the institution or facility provides at least one required meal component. For meal modifications for non-disability reasons, a parent, guardian, adult participant, or person on behalf of an adult participant may supply, at their discretion, one component of the reimbursable meal, as long as the component meets the requirements described in the meal pattern charts and the institution or facility provides the remaining components. Institutions and facilities have the option to accommodate special dietary needs that do not constitute a disability, including those related to religious or moral convictions or personal preference. The accommodation must meet the meal pattern requirements to claim the meal for reimbursement. These substitutions do not require a medical statement form to support the substitution. The institution must maintain a written parent or guardian request to support the substitution. For information on parent-supplied foods due to disabilities or non-disability reasons, please see the Meal Pattern Requirement section of the CACFP manual on the SDE website. Meal service during unanticipated school and daycare closures. Schools and daycare programs may face unanticipated closures due to extreme weather events, natural disasters, major building repairs, court orders relating to school safety or other issues, labor management disputes, or other similar causes. Unanticipated closures prevent students and children enrolled in childcare from receiving the nutritious meals normally provided. FNS and SDE encourages institutions participating in the CACFP to use the flexibilities provided to at-risk after-school centers to help ensure that participants do not experience a lapse in food security when extreme weather or other events force area schools or daycare programs to close. Supportive environments for breastfeeding mothers. Breast milk is recognized as the best milk for babies for countless reasons. It contains all of the vitamins and nutrients needed for the first 6 months of life. Creating environments for mothers to breastfeed their infants helps to promote healthy growth and development for the infants in care at centers and daycare homes. This is an optional best practice for facilities. Establishing a supportive breastfeeding environment for mothers in a child care facility can be made easy, and a little planning can go a long way to help make the transition easy for everyone. Some key steps might include establishing a policy, providing a location, and knowing how to handle expressed breast milk safely. Let's go into more detail with each of these points. Establish a policy. A key step to establishing a supportive breastfeeding environment is to implement a breastfeeding policy that supports mothers and protects the health of breastfed babies. A breastfeeding policy is not required, but might include the following points. Provide a place for breastfeeding mothers to breastfeed or express their milk. Assign a refrigerator for storage of expressed breast milk. Show sensitivity to breastfeeding mothers and their babies. Train all staff on handling expressed breast milk. Provide flexible breaks to accommodate staff who choose to breastfeed or express milk. And provide breastfeeding information to the child care setting. Provide a location. To create a quality breastfeeding area, designate a space for mothers. This space should be located away from restroom areas due to the high levels of bacteria. This area should feature the following characteristics: quiet, comfortable, and private, pillow to support the baby, nursing stool or step stool to prevent strain on the back, bottled water to increase hydration, and electrical outlet for breast pumps. Mothers should also have access to a sink for hand washing and a specific refrigerated location for storing their expressed milk. Handling breast milk safely. It is important the center or daycare home discuss the breastfeeding policy for handling and storing expressed breast milk with mothers. The facility should ask each mother to label the bottle with the child's name, date, and time the milk was expressed. Also, immediately after expressing, ask each mother to store their expressed milk in 2 to 4 ounce hard plastic labeled bottles in the back of a designated refrigerator or freezer. If stored in the refrigerator, serve fresh expressed breast milk within 72 hours. Child care providers shall always wash their hands for at least 20 seconds in warm soapy water before handling the expressed milk. If the expressed milk is frozen upon receipt, thaw in the refrigerator or in a container of warm water. Then use the thawed milk within 24 hours. Never microwave expressed milk, as this may create hot spots that can burn the mouths of babies. Never refreeze milk or mix unfinished milk with new milk. For more information regarding expiration dates, fresh or frozen breast milk, or related questions, contact your local health department or WIC office for applicable health and safety regulations regarding the safe handling of expressed breast milk. Meals served in the CACFP meal patterns must contribute to the development and socialization of children. Institutions and facilities must not use foods and beverages as punishments or rewards. Using food as a reward for good behavior or punishment for less pleasing behaviors may have a negative effect on children's development and socialization. For example, providing children sweet treats after they put away their toys may cause them to develop unhealthy eating habits, and these habits may cause cavities, weight gain, and other health problems. Another example is forcing children to eat all of their food before they can leave the table. This method can cause children to eat more than they need and not listen to their hunger cues, increasing their risk of becoming overweight or obese. Therefore, the meal pattern requirements do not allow the use of food and beverage as a punishment or a reward. Meal service sanitation. Centers and homes shall ensure that in storing, preparing, and serving food, proper sanitation and health standards are met, which conform to all applicable Idaho and local laws and regulations. Centers and homes shall ensure that adequate facilities are available to store food and hold meals. Meal service styles in CACFP. There are 3 main meal service styles you may use in your facility or facilities: cafeteria meal service, restaurant meal service, or best known as pre-plate meal service, and family style meal service. Facilities may also choose to combine meal service styles, and the most common combination is family style and restaurant. For more information on meal service styles, please refer to the Meal Service Requirements section of the CACFP manual or register and complete the Meal Service Styles online training. In general, institutions in CACFP are not permitted to separate participants on any protected basis during the service of CACFP meals and snacks. Federal law prohibits discrimination based on gender at any educational institution receiving federal assistance. Exceptions to the prohibition on gender-separated meal service. For co-educational schools and school-based sites operating in CACFP, the Food and Nutrition Service recognizes religious exemptions granted by the Department of Education without prior express approval. ED guidelines allow school and school-based sites to apply for an exemption when federal law prohibiting gender separation is inconsistent with the institution's religious tenets. These exemptions apply broadly to operations, including the meal service at a given site, such as a faith-based school. Additionally, ED guidelines specifically allow for the approval of gender-separate instruction at public primary and secondary non-vocational schools that could take a variety of forms. It is important to emphasize that since the general rule is that gender separation during meal service is prohibited, a coeducational school may not use limited ED approval of gender-separate instruction to justify blanket gender separation during a meal service. Limited exemptions in such situations must be expressly approved by FNS. For other institutions operating in CACFP, SDE may approve exemptions allowing separation by gender during a CACFP meal service for participating institutions without express approval from FNS in the following circumstances. Meal service at religious institutions operating under the dictates of the religion with which they are affiliated. Meal service at juvenile correctional facilities where combining members of the opposite gender would present a potential safety risk. Meal service at facilities that fully separate by gender as part of their normal operations, for example, gender-separated summer camps. When requesting an exemption, the CACFP operator must specify in writing which of the above listed reasons apply and why separation by gender is necessary. SDE will document all exemption requests, including the date of approval or disapproval, and if applicable, the duration of the approval in the institution site applications in My Idaho CNP. The above listed exemptions are the only acceptable basis for gender separation during CACFP meal service. Any gender separation not based on the ED and/or FNS approval processes is strictly prohibited. On a case-by-case basis, situations that do not clearly fit into any of the exemptions outlined above may be considered by the SDE in direct consultation with the FNS Western Regional Office, including the FNS Civil Rights Office and appropriate FNS National Office Child Nutrition Program staff. Center meal count record requirements. All centers must record meal counts at the time of service. Time of service means each meal or snack is recorded on the meal count record during the meal service when the participants received a reimbursable meal or snack. The meal service staff supervising the meal usually records the time of service meal counts. Meals or snacks may not be recorded prior to the meal service or before the participant is served a reimbursable meal. All child care centers, Head Start programs, outside school hour centers, emergency shelters, and adult daycare centers must record meal counts at the time of service for each approved meal type served to each participant by name, first and last. Child care centers that also have an after-school program and participate in the at-risk after-school program along with child care must also record service meal counts by each participant's name. At-risk after-school programs that only operate an after-school program for school-age children may record meal counts using a counting tally sheet, a clicker, or by child name. If the center uses a clicker, the total reimbursable meals or snacks served must be documented on a meal count record. An example counting tally sheet, at-risk meal count form, is available in My Idaho CNP download forms. Meal count forms or electronic devices must be readily available in the serving area to record meal counts. If recording meal counts on a hard copy meal count form, best practice is to keep meal count forms in a notebook, folder, or on a bulletin board or clipboard so that the meal service staff or provider can easily find and record meal counts. Institutions should maintain completed meal count forms and summary sheets in a file with other monthly CACFP records. If meal counts are recorded electronically on a tablet, phone, or other device, it is important the data is saved in a secure system. The center will also need a backup method for recording meal counts if the facility temporarily loses power or internet. Even though adult meals in centers are not claimed for reimbursement, centers must record the number of meals by type served to adults performing labor necessary to the food service. Each center must have a method to record these meals and may use separate columns on the meal count form to meet this requirement. The meal count form on the bottom of the slide is available in My Idaho CNP. This form meets the meal counting requirements. Daycare home provider meal count record requirements. Family daycare homes must record meal counts daily for each meal type by child. SDE or sponsoring organizations may require family daycare homes to record meal counts at the time of meal service in daycare homes providing care for more than 12 children in a single day, or in daycare homes that have been found seriously deficient due to problems with their meal counts and claims. Here is an example of SDE's daily daycare home attendance and meal count form available in My Idaho CNP under Download Forms. This form meets the meal counting requirements. Infant meal count record requirements. Centers and daycare home providers must keep separate menu records for infant meals. Because infant diets vary, foods offered must be recorded for each individual infant. The menus must document the infant's name, date of birth, menu date, the type of meal, breakfast, lunch, or snack, and all actual food items, brand of formula or breast milk served for each meal or snack. Since infants eat on demand, infant meals must be recorded using a system that ensures only infants who receive a reimbursable meal are documented on the daily meal count record. Infant meals should be included on the claim form with the other participant meals being claimed. They are not recorded separately on the reimbursement claim. Infants are reimbursed at the same reimbursement rate as other participants in the facility. The daily infant menu record form on this slide is provided in My Idaho CNP under Download Forms. It is designed to document each complete reimbursable meal for each infant before the meals are tallied and included in the claim for reimbursement. The following are examples of meal count methods that are not acceptable. Counting the number of meals prepared or sent by the kitchen. Determining the meal count by subtracting the number of entrees left over after the meal service from the number of entrees prepared. Counting the number of meals ordered from a vendor. Counting meals after the meal is completed based on teacher's memory. Using daily attendance records. Counting the number of trays or plates on which food is served. During this training, we reviewed the meal service types in CACFP and number of meals that may be claimed for reimbursement by participant each day. How to meet the meal service time requirements. Requirements and flexibilities during meal service. Meal service styles in CACFP. How and when to record meal counts. Thank you for participating in this training.